Have you ever been in a crowded room? Everyone is talking, laughter fills the air, conversations overlap, words fly here and there except you. You sit in a distant corner, silent, as if you're in another world, as if your voice has completely disappeared, as if words are trapped in your throat. You can't say anything, and you can't participate in this bustling world that seems not to be yours. Have you ever felt invisible? Like a ghost walking among people without anyone noticing you? Not because you're unintelligent, or because you lack value or importance, or because you can't express your thoughts, but simply because you are shy. This shyness clings to you, shackles your hands, and prevents you from expressing what's inside. It prevents you from taking the opportunities you deserve. It prevents you from living the life you want. But what if I told you there's one psychological trick? A magical yet completely real trick that was secretly used in the advanced psychological intelligence armies. What if you knew this trick has the power to transform someone like you, who fears looking others in the eye, is afraid to hear their own voice and trembles when asked to speak, into a completely different person? A confident, capable individual with a strong presence, whose every move is noticed and whose eyes are drawn to them wherever they go. Perhaps the idea seems crazy to you, and maybe you feel this is exaggerated talk, but I promise you it's real. Stay with me until the end, because this trick isn't just theoretical talk you read in books or hear in ordinary motivational videos. It's a powerful and dangerous psychological experiment, an experiment that was considered forbidden in some military schools because it's capable of reshaping a person's identity and breaking down the psychological barriers built by years of shyness, silence, and hesitation. Today I will reveal this trick to you in detail. I'll give you the key that has been hidden from you all this time, and you'll learn how to use it to change your life from its roots, to move from shadow to light, from shyness to power, and from silence to overwhelming presence. But to succeed, you must stay with me until the end, because what you're about to learn in the next few minutes will completely change how you see yourself and the world. The story of Leo. From shyness and silence to confidence and brilliance. Leo is a young man in his 20s, intelligent, well-mannered, and loved by those close to him. He possesses an exceptional talent in design. But despite all these beautiful qualities, there was one thing that hindered his life and prevented him from progressing: shyness. Shyness greatly controlled Leo's life. In meetings, he was always eager to present his idea, which he believed was unique and useful. But the moment he opened his mouth to speak, he felt as if an invisible wall prevented him from talking. He'd back down at the last moment and choose silence. He felt great disappointment and frustration every time this happened, but he was unable to change. At university, Leo was a top student, hardworking and diligent. He attended lectures early and took notes with extreme precision. He knew the correct answers to most of his professors' questions, but he preferred silence for fear of being the center of attention if he made a mistake, or even if he was right. He preferred to stay in the comfort zone he had created for himself, a zone of silence and safety. Even in his daily life, Leo was always described as nice. But being nice wasn't enough to make others truly see or hear him. His presence was always subdued, a shy presence that didn't attract anyone's attention. And he felt deeply resentful of this reality, but he couldn't change it. One day, Leo attended an important meeting at the company where he worked. During the meeting, the director presented an idea that impressed everyone, and the attendees began with warm applause and great praise. The surprise was that this very idea in its full detail had been written in Leo's notebook a week ago. The idea he feared to present, feared to be criticized or ridiculed for. Now he heard his idea presented by someone else's voice, and everyone was praising it and celebrating it. At that moment, Leo felt intense pain, a pain akin to losing something very dear, a pain that reflected a harsh truth. He wasn't living his real life. He was living a shadow of another life, a life chosen by shyness on his behalf. At that moment, Leo realized the truth of his situation. He must change. He must break the chains of shyness that bound him and prevented him from enjoying his life. He realized that if he didn't act now, he would remain a prisoner of this feeling for life. And from here, Leo began his true journey, a journey to get rid of shyness and search for his true self, which had been buried under layers of fear and silence for many years. Leo decided to search. It wasn't just a simple decision, it was like an inner call echoing inside him day after day until he could no longer ignore it. He knew there was something inside him being buried alive every time he remained silent, something that desired to live, to appear, to express itself. But it was shackled by something called shyness. So he began his journey. He devoured books on self-confidence, public speaking techniques, social intelligence, overcoming anxiety, and reprogramming the subconscious mind. He searched in every direction. He took notes, watched motivational videos before bed, listened to podcasts on his way to work. He even tried to repeat phrases in front of the mirror. I am strong, I am confident, I am loved. But the truth was, after all this effort, he kept returning to the same point. When he entered a new place, he felt fear. When asked to speak, his voice trembled. And when he thought of sharing his opinion, he hesitated, then fell silent. Leo felt that something deeper needed to change. He no longer wanted superficial solutions. He no longer wanted temporary painkillers. He wanted a radical change, something to break this cycle. And one night, after a long meditation session and an inner feeling of silent despair, he sat browse foreign websites specializing in high-performance psychology. And there, amidst a sea of articles and theories, he stumbled upon a striking title. A psychological strategy used in special forces training to dismantle old identity and build a completely new one. He opened it and began to read. The strategy was simple in theory, but powerful to the extent that it's taught in secret programs for some elite units. Its name, Phased Emotional Detachment. The strategy simply states, if you want to get rid of your shyness, don't try to change yourself directly. Instead, act as if you are another person. Allow your mind to believe that you are not who you were, but who you can be. In short, if you want to get rid of your shyness, don't try to be brave. Instead, act as if you are another person until your new mind believes it. This phrase hit his mind like electricity. It made him sit up straight suddenly. He reread the section multiple times and began to think, what if I don't need to be brave now, but just need to be someone else for a few minutes? Explaining the psychological trick, Ray's alternate identity. This was the beginning of his big idea. He decided to create an alternate persona for himself. Himself, but a different version. He chose to call him Ray. Ray didn't suffer from shyness. He was a fictional character at first, but over time, he became a reality that manifested every time Leo entered a new place. He would imagine he was no longer himself. He would embody Ray, a confident young man who spoke calmly, walked steadily, chose his words carefully, and wasn't afraid of glances. At first, it seemed like acting, but it wasn't. It was a way to program the brain that this new behavior was possible, that this personality genuinely waited inside him, just waiting for permission to emerge. And even when he felt fear, he no longer fled. He would observe the feeling, acknowledge its presence, but not succumb to it. He didn't try to hide the tension. He absorbed it, as if he had become the observer, not the victim. And gradually, something began to change. Something internal, something deep, the hidden power. At first, people around him thought Leo had changed suddenly. But the truth is, he didn't change. He was freed. Freed from the idea that he always had to be liked, from the belief that people's opinions defined his worth, freed from the fear of failure in front of others, and from the inner voice that constantly whispered, be quiet, don't mess it up, don't be stupid, don't be ridiculed. And he discovered the truth that changed his view of the world, that most people don't even notice, that everyone is preoccupied with themselves, their flaws, their struggles, and that all this psychological suffering he was experiencing was in his head. It was just an illusion he believed, but now he was beginning to overcome it. The turning point, Ray's presentation. And one day, Leo received an invitation to give a presentation to an executive committee of a renowned global team, the team responsible for one of the major projects in his field. The presentation wasn't just a fleeting occasion, it was an opportunity that could completely change his future. The entire company was anticipating this presentation, and everyone, including Leo, knew its importance. Days before the presentation, doubt crept in. That old voice returned in his head, whispering, "You'll fail, your voice will stammer, they'll laugh, they'll ask a question you don't know how to answer." But Leo didn't listen. He had trained not just the content, but the persona. He no longer saw himself as the boy who was afraid to say his name aloud in class. He was no longer the student who avoided raising his hand or the employee who hesitated 1,000 times before speaking. On the day of the presentation, he dressed as if he were going to a fateful battle. He looked in the mirror and spoke in a calm, firm voice. "Today you are not just Leo, you are Ray." He entered the enormous hall with steady steps. His inner lights were calmer than ever before, yet at the same time they blazed with unusual confidence. Eyes turned to him. The seats were full, the display screens lit up, and recording devices whirred. But something inside him was different. He didn't tremble. He didn't hesitate. He didn't stammer. He stood before everyone with complete gravitas. He didn't talk much. He didn't over-explain. He didn't try to convince anyone. He simply presented his idea as it was, with simplicity and clarity, using his vocal tones wisely, his pauses confidently, and his presence as if he had been practicing on stage for years. And when he finished his presentation, no one spoke a word. A moment of silence, but it wasn't a moment of anxiety, it was a moment of awe. Then the applause began. Genuine applause born of admiration, not flattery. Words of praise followed. Then came the moment that changed everything. A direct offer from the company itself. A job offer he had never dreamed of. A position higher than he expected. And an invitation to work directly with them on an international project. At that moment, he didn't just feel success. He felt he had reclaimed himself. That for the first time he hadn't hidden, and he hadn't needed to prove anything to anyone, because he knew what he had done was enough. Psychological analysis of the strategy, phased emotional detachment. What really happened? And why did Leo's personality begin to change from within? In psychology, there's a principle known as temporary identity control, a simple yet powerful idea. The mind doesn't easily distinguish between reality and acting, as long as the behavior is practiced repeatedly and convincingly. When you force your mind to act as if you are another person, even if you know you are acting at first, the mind gradually begins to rewire its internal programming to conform to this new behavior. It begins to believe. And this is what Leo did. Instead of confronting shyness with force or denial, he used a clever workaround. He didn't try to fix his old personality. Instead, he allowed himself to borrow an alternate identity and live through it until it gradually integrated within him. But why is this trick considered forbidden in some psychological or military schools? Because it's sometimes used in special training to radically reshape behavior and identities, and is employed in operations known as identity erasure, where a person is psychologically rebuilt from scratch for military or intelligence purposes. These operations carry psychological risks if used without awareness or supervision, as they separate the person from their original emotions and rebuild their identity from the outside in a drastic way. However, in your case, you're not using it as an erasure tool, but as a discovery tool. You're not escaping yourself, you're reorganizing yourself. You're not pretending, you're liberating a voice that life buried within you for years. When to use this trick? This trick isn't just momentary acting. It's a mental technique that requires a conscious repetition and continuous practice. When you enter a new place and feel fear, don't say, "I'm shy," because this phrase reprograms your weakness. Instead, ask, "If Ray were in my place, what would he do?" Then do the same, even if you're trembling inside. When asked to speak in front of people, don't speak as you would in your normal state. Imagine you're an actor on stage, playing a charismatic and powerful character. Take a breath and speak as if you're used to it, even if you're still learning. When the inner voice of fear starts to cloud your mind, don't respond to it. Don't try to silence it forcefully. Just observe it. Smile as if you're watching an actor whose performance doesn't convince you. Know that it's not the real you, but remnants of an old voice that used to control you. With repetition, those voices will erode, and a new personality will emerge from the ashes. You'll then realize that you didn't need extraordinary courage, you just needed a different way to rediscover yourself. The pivotal point: shyness is not your identity. You might ask, is this hypocrisy? Are you pretending to be someone you're not? Are you putting on a new mask to hide your true self? Absolutely not, because the shocking truth is that this new personality that began to emerge was not alien to you. It wasn't an intruder, it wasn't a trick. Instead, it was always inside you, just waiting for the dust to be brushed off, for the chains to be broken, for the doors to be opened. Shyness is not you. Shyness is just that layer that accumulated on you since childhood. From negative words spoken to you, from unforgettable moments of embarrassment, from glances where others judged your weakness. But now you are no longer that fearful child. Now you know that shyness was not your identity, but merely a reaction you were conditioned into. And what you're doing today isn't pretending, it's reclaiming. Leo was not born a hero. He was shy, hesitant, backing away from every opportunity, fleeing from every gaze, and hiding behind a screen or a wall. But he made one decision: to give himself the chance to appear, to test what it would be like if he stopped hiding. And when he applied this psychological trick, everything changed. He didn't become superhuman, he didn't become perfect, but he became authentic. And today, Leo owns his own company. He gives lectures to hundreds of people and lives a life he once thought was reserved for others. And that girl he was too shy to even look at is now his life partner. The difference wasn't in the world around him, but in him, in his view of himself. Because at a pivotal moment, he realized, shyness is not weakness, but untapped energy. Conclusion: your turn now. And now it's your turn. Choose a name. Not to escape, but to experiment. Choose a persona. Not to pretend, but to explore your other side. And treat every moment of shyness as a training ground. Every new place you enter is a new scene in your movie. And every time you're caught by fear, remember that you are now the director, not the victim. You don't have to be brave every single moment. It's enough to be willing to take one step outside your usual boundaries. Because sometimes just one step is enough to open a door you never knew existed. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Start now, even if your heart is trembling. And step out into the world not as if you're searching for your place, but as if you were born to take it. And if this video has touched your heart, don't let it stop with you. Send it to someone you love, to someone who needs to hear this now. And hit the like button, for perhaps your small gesture will be the reason this message reaches someone whose life changes because of it. And subscribe to the channel, because what's coming isn't just content, it's steps toward change, toward depth, toward you. See you in the next video, ready for a new step.